Thanks to Nourish for inviting me. I give talks to doctors all the time, but I don't give talks to high school students all the time, and this is more intimidating. Mainly because I remember when I was a high school student, which is a long time ago now, and I hated this sort of thing. So hopefully I will give you guys an entertaining half hour and something to chat about. I'm just going to try to navigate over here, and what I want to talk about today is how the whole world wants to give you guys junk food, and more importantly, how the world is conspiring to do so, and how I think you guys deserve better. I'm going to start by talking about Hurricane Katrina. I don't know if you folks remember Hurricane Katrina, but it was a number of years ago, and it was the largest natural disaster in America's history. It covered a landmass of over 90,000 square miles, 233,000 square kilometers as far as problems. It caused 1,800 deaths and $81 billion in damage. The floodwaters that you can see here actually went 19 kilometers away from the beach. That is how much flooding there was. And in response to this, what happened, of course, was what was supposed to happen. The government mobilized resources, started filling sandbags. That's the helicopter lifting the bigger sandbags, and here's some folks explaining where they should go. And we dropped those sandbags down, and we created levees. I'm going to be coming back to this analogy in a little bit. But I would argue that we have a flood of our own right now, and that our flood is crappy food. You know, whether it's crappy food from what you expect to see, fast food organizations, and I'll tell you that sit-down restaurants aren't much better, or crappy food masquerading as good food. And I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to explain to you guys, I know you guys probably know this already, but Fruit Loops aren't a healthy choice. Yet, if you look at the box is telling you it's a good source of fiber, it's made with whole grain, and it's telling a lot of parents that this is not a terrible choice for their kids. It is a strange thing that we allow food marketers to put this sort of information on our boxes. So the food industry, they're not doing anything wrong by making this box. They are allowed to do this. The question is, should we be letting the food industry make Fruit Loops look healthy? Cookies, as you know, according to this advertisement over here, can be just as nutritious as milk. I'm not sure how well you can read it, but this talks about cookies having sources of calcium, having whole grains, that they're cholesterol-free. I'll tell you that cookies are delicious, but they are certainly not more nutritious than milk. But again, we do allow for this sort of advertisement to occur. Yes, Tostitos are made with whole grains, but I don't think that even anybody here in this audience or in this school starting from as young as grade 1 or grade 2 would appreciate that Tostitos, being a good source of whole grains, is a bit nonsensical. I don't know if you've seen these sorts of products. You might even have them sometimes in your lunches. And this product or these products are supposed to be fruit products. And you can see on the slide over here, there's a check mark. I'm going to walk right up because I don't have a laser and point to it. This is the check mark from the Heart and Stroke Foundation. You've probably heard of the Heart and Stroke Foundation. That's called a health check. That's supposed to guide consumers to make better choices. And in fact, they've done some research proving that when people see that check mark, they think that this is a healthful choice. If you look at the product on the left that looks like Twizzlers, it actually has more calories and more sugar than Twizzlers. The product on the right, by weight, is 79% pure sugar. And yet this is being marketed to you and to your parents as healthy choices, as replacements for fruit, and sadly it is not. And then there's grape juice. I've called grape juice the world's least healthy beverage. And the reason I say that is because that in a single glass of grape juice, there are 10 teaspoons of sugar. That is double the sugar and double the calories that you would find in Coca-Cola. And yet, it is something that we regularly serve ourselves or have our parents serve to us, or potentially in cafeterias and schools, with this belief that because once upon a time in a very distant past, something in that bottle was on a tree, that this is now somehow a fruit. And it is not. There are no juice trees. This is a snack-size McFlurry. This is a snack-size McFlurry where the word snack is interesting, because if you consider a snack to be a regular-sized Snicker bar dissolved in a can of Coca-Cola, Well, then, yes, indeed, this would provide you with that same sort of a snack, because in this snack size McFlurry, there are more calories in a quarter pounder, and there's 15 teaspoons of sugar. And the fact that, again, we allow the industry to use words like snack size to describe their products is the question, not whether or not those products are snacks. This one, Katie Smart, I loved Kraft Dinner as a kid. I have 3 kids who love Kraft Dinner. The fact is, though, I will never convince myself or my children that buying it is a smart choice. In this particular case, they're suggesting that because there's 5 grams of fiber in the bowl, it is good for you, yet what, of course, consumers don't necessarily know is that the fiber comes up from what I call orphaned oat hulls. They grind up oats, they take some fiber, they add it to the bowl of Kraft Dinner. That is different than getting actual fiber. A single piece of fruit with a peel has more fiber than a bowl of Kraft Dinner. And then there's this bowl of Kraft Dinner that says it has cauliflower in it. If you calculate how much cauliflower is in there, there is about 2 tablespoons of cauliflower dust that have been highly processed and added to this particular product, and then launched squarely at your parents for them to believe that, you know what, this choice that my kids love is now a healthful choice, when it is certainly not. In terms of Mott's Fruit Station plus veggies, there is half the fiber and 1/40 the vitamin A of a single carrot in one of these packages. This is applesauce. There's nothing particularly wrong or right about applesauce, but to suggest that people are getting vegetables from it is nonsensical. And this one's geared straight at you folks, where if you don't have a Carnation instant breakfast, then you will walk around your halls like zombies. What they're, of course, not telling you is that there are 10 teaspoons, well, 9.75 teaspoons of sugar in every glass of that. Have a glass of this every single day for a year, and you'll have just over a 5-pound bag of sugar in you as a consequence. Having a glass of sugar with some vitamins in it does not make it a healthful choice. And really, there is no milk emergency so strong in this country that requires parents to mix chocolate syrup in with milk to ensure their kids drink milk. Suggesting that sugar makes milk worthwhile, or for kids who don't like milk, sugar is a good idea, would be like suggesting if you don't like apples that your parents serve you apple pie. It is not the same thing, and there is no such milk emergency here. This one, you may have seen omega-3 advertised. Have you guys seen omega-3 added to foods? Does that ring any bells for people in this room? Because I'm not sure how young they target. So this is something that contains omega-3. It's a yogurt. And omega-3 is being marketed nowadays as something that makes kids smart. And if you read this, it says that once upon a time there were big ones who had little ones, and they wanted the little ones to be healthy and strong. And that presumably having this will help your little one be healthy and strong as a consequence of DHA. If you look at the back of this container and you look at where it lists how much DHA is there, you will see 0.0 grams, which is confusing considering it's being sold as containing DHA. So I called the company and I told them that I was confused. And they explained to me that there is not a sufficient amount of DHA in this product to allow them to put it on the label as being part of the ingredients. And where I'm scratching my head is if it's not allowed to be listed on the ingredient list in terms of how many grams, why are they allowed to get away with advertisements like this? There will absolutely, without a doubt, be parents who buy this, and it's more expensive, who buy this because of DHA. If a parent wanted their child to have as much DHA as they would get in one of these, all they would need that child to do would be to eat a piece of salmon that was 1/3 the size of a single pea. It takes 64 of these to equal the amount of omega-3 you would get in actual fish. And bread is the same thing. This is Wonder Plus Head Start. There's even a brain on it, I think, telling you that this is going to make you smart and healthy. If, again, you wanted to have the omega-3 of a serving of fish from eating this particular product, 214 slices of bread later, you would be there. And we've done this with adult products as well. This one has omega-3 to promote a healthy body and brain. It's pomegranate, blueberry flavored beverage. This one requires 8 liters to drink to get the amount of DHA you'd have in a single serving of salmon. And along with that, it would bring you 5 cups worth of sugar. We even have cookies that on the cookie itself, forget about front of package labeling. This actually has front of cookie labeling. The actual cookie says 0 trans fat on it. You can't see it in this slide, but it is there. And again, this health washing of products by the food industry makes sense because their job is to convince you that all of these delicious things are in fact really good for you and that there are shortcuts, that you don't need to rely on produce. You guys can buy products, and those products will make you and your future children healthy. If poutine is part of your routine, there's vitamin water. Vitamin Water was sued in the United States for messages like this one, and their defense, it's one of my favorite food industry defenses ever, was how could anybody have expected those ads to be taken seriously by consumers? And it is true that this is a ridiculous ad, but it is also true that Vitamin Water is packaged in a way to make it look extremely healthful. And Vitamin Water is, of course, just sugar water, again, with a few vitamins. Coca-Cola claims not to advertise to children. This advertisement, well, this was in a comic book that says Coca-Cola is always great for sports. Coca-Cola claims it's been 50 years they haven't been advertising to kids. I imagine that you in this audience might feel differently. Coca-Cola sponsors sporting events. We see that co-sponsorship of sporting events by the food industry all the time. It's a way to health wash their products. And although this young lad is not necessarily drinking a Coke at the finish line, this young lad is internalizing the joy, the spirit, the excitement of that particular day with a very clear branding opportunity. And this child is an ideal consumer for Coca-Cola, not necessarily to drink it, but to believe that Coke is awesome, because if they can get him young, they have him for life. And of course, this was the Vancouver Christmas parade, which clearly this float is not geared towards children. This is meant to appeal to me. There's also this line of Coca-Cola branded toys, which I will be buying my wife on our next anniversary, because clearly these aren't for children. I know it does say it's a 100-piece puzzle and it's for 5+, but my wife is older than 5, so she will enjoy this, I'm sure, and a Hot Wheels car, and a Lego kit, and of course the ubiquitous bear. I mean, we know that Coca-Cola advertises to children. And then there's the strange marketers. I doubt there's anybody who will know exactly where this is. This is from your airport. If you go to the car rental, outside the car rental is a cup full of suckers that presumably you can give to your children if you're there with a bunch of screaming kids. But the ubiquity of food, the let's give people junk food or fast food, it is relentless, it is nonstop, it is everywhere. You know, there are immersive games online for kids. Again, these are companies who claim that they do not market to children, but there are websites like this one where it's no longer a 30-second commercial. Now it's a 15-minute interactive immersive experience, and you all have now just been targeted by the Coca-Cola company, who announced last week they were launching a multi-year campaign to target teens, young teens specifically, with mobile phones. And again, the point is that the advertisement, it won't be a drink Coke screen. It'll be an immersive game that is designed, no doubt with the help of neuropsychologists, to try to instill a sense of goodwill and excitement towards this one particular brand. This was sent to my daughter. I have 3 girls, 8, 6, and 4. And this was sent to her by one of her friends. It's a Happy Meal Maker app commissioned by McDonald's, where you can take photos of yourself and attach a Happy Meal to it. This is a program, I don't know if you guys have this here. Does this ring true here? Do you know what Knowing is Growing is, or no? So it looks like a no. Knowing is Growing is if you read a book, you get a free pan pizza. And that the Pizza Hut does support schools by creating this sort of a program, and by tying in with literacy, it's very difficult to criticize. This one was sent to me by somebody who took their child to a safety in the internet thing at a local mall, and when they completed it, they got a free small fries, because why not? But there's no question that McDonald's paid for that. This was someone who, in grade 9, won their track meet, and as a consequence, their school gave them, again, a gift card for McDonald's. This is a new program in Peel. So Peel, Ontario, I'm from Ontario, are now giving out kindness citations. It's called Operation Freeze. And it's called Operation Freeze because, and truly this is their branding, they want to make good deeds seem cool. And bear with me, they're giving out Mac Frosters, which is like a Slurpee, to kids for a reward. There's 710 mils in size. They contain, each of those, 444 calories. And they contain just over a half a cup of sugar each. Now, this is a city-run program that's being sponsored by Mac's, the convenience store. But there's no doubt in my mind that one of the options they might have had would have been free passes to local sporting arenas that are also city-run. It certainly need not be junk food, and constantly junk food. When I was shopping at our local supermarket, I was asked if I wanted to buy a cookie for the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario. I would have happily just given $1 to the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario. They get $1 for each cookie. I was there with my 6-year-old at the time, who of course really wanted it, and now I've got to be the bad guy and say no. I don't think that selling cookies for hospitals is a good plan. This is my middle one. On rare occasions, we do go out for breakfast or for lunch or dinner. I'd say we probably take her out to eat maybe 4 or 5 times a year. And this was a special daddy-daughter breakfast where that is a kid's meal. You know, it's and that is her face when she got it, because she couldn't believe her eyes. But, you know, it really is a crazy thing that this is a kid's meal. This package of goodies was given to a child who completed a Just for Kids triathlon. And if you add up all the items there, it's 450 calories and 15 teaspoons of sugar. The adults, though, got orange slices, bananas, and water. Now, all of these items, no doubt, were donated by the food industry because, again, getting people young is exactly what they want. And there's also no question that kids and adults like sugar. I don't want you to think that I'm here to tell you you're not allowed to eat any of this stuff. I'm just suggesting that these sorts of uses of food really put you behind the 8 ball. It's not about choice anymore if it is constantly thrust in front of you. We're human beings. You know, we know that the pleasure centers of our brain light up just like they do with cocaine in response to food. I mean, this is something to suggest that we will resist and resist and resist and resist, I think is nonsense. Timbits. Do they sponsor minor hockey here? They certainly do in Ontario. The kids are actually called Timbits, and no doubt there's lots of sponsored food. McAdam hockey, that's the atomic hockey is, again, a Hockey Canada affair, so I assume it's here as well, where McDonald's sponsors not only the equipment, but does give the coaches coupons to get their kids to go there. This is not altruism. So a corporation's job is to sell food. That's it. It's not to support sport. It's not to support your health. It's not to do anything other than sell food. Anything that a food industry does is to either sell more products by, for instance, linking the excitement and joy of hockey to McDonald's, or it's to try to prevent dilution of sales. So sometimes there's a lesser evil for the food industry where they need to agree to do some half measure so that the full measure is not imposed upon them. Anybody recognize this store? So I walked by there. I took this picture this morning where Saturday, May 11th apparently is Candy for Kids Day, where they're going to donate the money sold by candy sales to IWK Health Center. And really, whether or not we should be selling candy to raise money for a children's hospital, it seems very backwards in my mind. And this one, too, I don't know where the Grosvenor or Wentworth Spring Fair is going to actually take place. This was sent to me just this past week by someone here in Halifax, where every single donation request, pretty much, bar none, is for either candy or soda pop. There is the request for a couple of cases of bottled water. But truly, are we so mind-numbingly uncreative that the only thing we can figure out how to do with kids is to pacify kids with junk food, to celebrate with junk food, it is just a constant barrage. This is your cakewalk. I know this has had a lot of fanfare as well. There's lots of ways to fundraise without cake. I think you should enjoy cake, but if the choice is not fundraising or fundraising with cake, me personally, I'd pick the not fundraising. And while I understand in schools it's disappearing some, it is now your Blue Nose Marathon. It is now a cakewalk. On the sports field, I'm not sure if any of you played organized sports when you were younger. I know my little girls play. If they so much as bend a blade of grass, someone seems to want to give them a popsicle or an energy drink. And again, this is kids running around for 15 minutes. We don't need to recover with a glass of sugar water. But yet that's what we're being told on a regular and ongoing basis. Pizza days in schools. I love pizza. I love it. But to suggest that I should have it every single week because it's Friday normalizes its consumption on a regular basis. I do think it's part of life, but not every day. And chocolate milk, double the calories and 20% more sugar than Coca-Cola. Again, not something I would encourage people drinking on a regular basis. It's that apple pie phenomena. I don't think that people who don't like apples should think they should eat apple pie. Ultimately, I think we have what's called a very unlevel playing field. Now, I don't know if that's a real photograph or not, but I do like it. Right now, the world is stacked against you. You know, we allow marketers to target parents and to target kids with garbage. But more importantly, we dress that garbage up with helpful messages. And, you know, some people might think, well, you know, I'm smart. I can navigate this. I won't succumb to this sort of marketing. I'll say two things to that. The food industry spends over $1 billion a year in advertising, with 60% of that advertising going towards targeting young kids. I don't think they'd be spending that money if it didn't work. You know, there are people who absolutely are savvy and can think through this sort of stuff, but that is not necessarily everyone. And I'll tell you something else. They say that on an average day, you're making 200 different dietary decisions. For you to stay vigilant for that many decisions each and every day is almost impossible. And sometimes you have no choice. So I had a nice talk this morning. I think that someone in the audience may laugh, but we got served. We had two choices. It was pizza or it was this white pasta dish. And neither were particularly helpful choices. I suppose I could have said no and not eaten anything for lunch, but that's not realistic either. And so sometimes there isn't a choice. And this belief that this will solve everything, that the word no will beat, you know, $1 billion a year in advertising, it doesn't actually reflect the realities of the world that we live in, where the reality is we have this flood that I was talking about. You know, it's a flood of calories. It's a flood of horribly processed foods that we absolutely, all of us, know aren't good for us, but that doesn't mean that we don't eat them. We shouldn't be allowing the food industry to do these sorts of things. So to suggest that we just have choice, that, you know, it's a parent's responsibility or it's our own personal responsibility, that's like saying that if there's a flood and you live in a floodplain, that the only thing governments and people should want to do is to make sure everybody's got lots of swimming lessons. That's not how you deal with a flood. Now, looking out at you folks, I will make a prediction that's not kind. So my guess is when you start your families, and certainly when your families are your age, healthcare won't exist the way it does today. And it won't exist the way it does today because we are seeing incredible and rapid rises in diet and weight-related illnesses. This is a big deal. You know, we make sure people wear seatbelts. We have laws about the marketing of tobacco and alcohol. When there is a product that is being consumed by a population that is costing the population their health and the country its dollars, it is the obligation of the government to do something about it. They need to start building levees. That is how you deal with a flood. You stack sandbags, and they may be sandbags like banning the targeted marketing of these products to children. In Quebec, they can't market anything to kids under the age of 13. I think that's a great thing. It may be putting calories on menu boards. It may be making sure that when the next iteration of the school food policy happens here in Nova Scotia, and you guys are way ahead of the rest of the country, but being way better than everybody else who's horrible doesn't necessarily make you great, right? So we really have a long way to go. But I think one of the places is you folks. You know, because one day, sooner than you think, you will have to give a talk somewhere, and you will have the ubiquitous slide of your children in it. Those are my kids. You know, and it will happen in a heartbeat. Everybody always tells you this, things happen fast, but you will blink, and you will have this in your backyard. And, you know, I know it's difficult to think about now. I had a difficult time thinking about it when I was younger. But I think that it is from our youth and getting you to care that we might actually see change down the road. You know, I don't think swimming lessons are the right ideas. I think we need levees. And I'm hoping that over time, you guys will help to build them. Thank you.